Okay, so welcome back to the podcast. My name's Josh, and I'm here today with a Keller Williams superstar who goes by the name of Michael Bailey. Michael Bailey, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, Josh. Thank you very much. Thanks for asking me to come on the program. Yeah, I'm great. Yeah, are you? How are you?
Yeah, I'm all good, thank you. I'm all good, very good. For those who don't know, Michael Bailey, he is one of the highest grossing Keller Williams agents in the UK. He's been with Keller Williams for what, coming up to 4 years or maybe about a bit more.
Just over 3 years now. So September 19 was when we started.
Yeah, so one of the longer standing agents, I would say, in the market center at least. But definitely one of the most successful. And really today, I just wanted to get a little bit of better understanding of basically how you did it. Um, Share a bit of knowledge with people that are thinking about maybe getting into agency,
Yep.
taking their first steps, as well as talking a little bit about the market in general and what's next for sort of Michael Bailey. So let's fire things off. So what made you go from a agent working for a high street brand to to working for yourself as a self-employed agent? What got you going?
Well, the first thing that really got me going or got me on the road to it is Chris Buckler, obviously the OP at the Market Centre. Spent a lot of time with me to show me not to come to Keller, but just it was the right decision to do something different from what I was doing. I'd sat in a job for probably 6 or 7 years, quite unhappily towards the end.
Mm,
And I was a prisoner to a pretty good package for where we are. And I let that cloud my judgment in terms of pushing myself and getting onto a different level of success that we had there. So that's kind of what led me to the journey of wanting to go on my own, be in charge of my own destiny, and making sure that there were no powers that be anymore other than me and my family and where we were trying to get to, what we're trying to do for our customers.
no, absolutely, absolutely. I suppose being in control of your own destiny is one thing, but also I think for certain people, you just want to be your own boss and drive your own ship. I suppose, and that it's hard when you're that kind of entrepreneurial person to be kind of taking orders from people, if that makes sense, in that kind of environment. And I'm the same. I mean, I'm a very much a you know free spirit, and I want to do things my own way, and that's kind of I can kind of empathize with that a lot. So what do you enjoy? What do you enjoy most about being your own boss? What do you enjoy the most about being self-employed?
The flexibility of being able to offer more time to my family than I did before, and being more available. And I think I've said this probably a few times to a few different people, probably prior to working for myself. Apart from a Wednesday, a Saturday, and a Sunday, I never ate a meal at home with a family because of work
Jesus,
commitments.
yeah.
And um, after that, now I do all sorts of stuff. We go, for example, we've got tennis and football on a Monday. We've got swimming on a Wednesday. We've got sports clubs on Saturdays. My youngest goes to drama club on Sunday. Like all those kind of things, which I never would have been around for or couldn't commit to long term. I'm able to do so now. So I was lucky where I worked. I always used to drop the kids off. But yeah, other than that's probably the main benefit to my
Mm,
life and my
mm.
family, being a bit more present.
So you can be a bit more flexible with your time. You're in control of that. So if you want to go do some extra family stuff, you can. You're not being told, no, you'll be there, sat behind your desk at 7 p.m. and then you've got a 7 p.m. viewing that you got to go to because someone just called in. So I get that, and I think it's that even though at times I suppose being self-employed is more pressure. Um, it's I think it's offset by the fact that you can be a bit more flexible and manage your own time, which I find that is a major benefit. And if you need to take an afternoon off to do something, that's your choice. and you don't feel you're not under anyone else's kind of like time, if that makes sense. You're not contracted, which is quite what's the word? Free. It gives you a sense of freedom, I guess, and it makes things a bit more enjoyable, especially if you've got
Yeah.
family around. So on the flip side of that, I mean, what's the most challenging thing you found about going solo?
Um, I guess well, not consistency, but having the dogged determination to be consistent on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. Probably also in a roundabout way, being a bit kinder to myself and understanding that not every day is going to be perfect, and some days I'll do what I want to do and achieve what I want to achieve. Other days I won't.
Mm, mm,
Um, Trying not to be perfect is something I've had to learn quite a lot.
yeah.
Because I think one imperfection can lead to a lot of procrastination, which is something I've probably suffered from through my career prior to this in my life. And then having a team is
Mm,
challenging,
mm.
and that's probably one of the last areas that I'm kind of going through an evolution of learning properly how to not manage a team, because I don't think it's management. I think it's about how to lead the team to be success and to break through kind of some of the barriers and the ceilings we've never been able to break through before when running teams elsewhere.
Okay. Okay. So going back to what you said about imperfections, what could you expand on that a bit more? Because do you mean like as in you get caught up on maybe making mistakes or things that you've done previously, or how does what do you mean?
More so in let's say I've got a task to do.
Yeah.
I would get caught. So, for example, let's say I've got to send an email to someone about something, a developer, let's say a developer.
Yeah.
In years gone by, I would have agonized and spent hours over something, which is really probably quite simplistic,
Yeah.
and wanted to get it perfect instead of just actually like getting it done and getting it sent, and therefore
Okay.
wasting a bit of time on that, which could have been better diverted to another task or activity.
I see. I see. So it's maybe getting bogged down in the detail of that particular task and
Yeah,
letting that sort of take too much of your energy and time into that something that could be quite straightforward. Yeah,
yeah,
I see what you're saying. It's like overkill maybe on in
but
certain circumstances.
yeah, basically,
Yeah, okay. Okay. I've never suffered from that. I'm the complete opposite. I just like to get things done very quickly, and I I don't really tend to sort of get bogged down in too much stuff like that. I'm the opposite of that. But that's to my detriment in some respects. I tend to be a bit gun ho about things, and that's maybe I do need to be a bit more like you in terms of or find some sort of balance between the two, I
yeah.
guess. Um, so you talked a little bit about your team, and this was a really interesting topic because a lot of agents are at that point where they're doing all right as a solo agent, but they haven't really taken the steps to sort of start building a team. Um, and I'm just quite interested to know what kind of drove you to that really, building the team and as well as your own brand, like what made you want to kind of take that step?
Um, I don't think at the beginning necessarily it was part of the plan, but then I didn't necessarily understand the potential and where we could get to and what we could do. And then from there, then that's the team's kind of been born out of there. And I guess sort of fundamental things that I would do differently. I would start searching for someone probably a bit sooner than I did.
Okay.
But I took a long while to work out cost versus investment of that person. And yeah, really, it's just great. It's grown out of necessity and me understanding that I can't do everything. I'm really trying to hone in on the 80/20. So 20% of the stuff that I need to do, I need to do 80% of the time, and vice versa. The other 80% of the stuff that I don't want to do or I'm not so gifted at, or whatever, however you want to describe it,
Hmm.
that's the stuff that we need to get people into the team to leverage that stuff out, basically.
Do you think if you were less, like you mentioned earlier, as in less meticulous about everything, you would have, and more bit more gun ho about everything, you would have carried on as a solo agent a bit longer?
I don't think so, no, because I think I probably lost that meticulousness or that certainly that search for perfectionism quite early on. It was something that became apparent to me quite early on. Similarly to what you said about you're the flip of that. Well, again,
Mm,
you've just said that, so you're aware of that. So that awareness came relatively quickly for me, and it's been if I look back at the teams that I've not failed with, because I've massively failed with a team failed, but I've not made the right decisions in terms of trying to keep hold of a lot of the stuff myself. Whereas in practical terms, you just can't do that. If you want to get bigger and deal with more properties and scale, you just need that support.
mm, mm. Yeah, I suppose when you're taking on a couple of instructions a month, it's not so much of a big deal. It's one or two properties, but if it's like 5 or 6 properties, I guess there's only so much you can really handle as one person. And then the service level will start to drop a little bit, don't they? Because you can't be everywhere all at once. And it's always those ones, whenever something goes wrong, it always goes wrong at the same time as everything else, doesn't it? It's just how it goes, isn't it? If you've got
Yeah,
no
and I
one
guess
that's really there to help you, then
I guess as well, it's also making sure that you remember why you did it in the first place. Is for a bit of that time, because in the early days when it was just me, I would do normally. Let's say on a Monday when I pick the kids up for this, we didn't do so many sports clubs then, but let's say back then I would have done a 9 to 3. I would
yeah.
have gone and picked them up, taken them to their tennis lesson. Would probably be home at 5, help out at home, have tea, put them to bed, and then I probably would have done an 8 till midnight maybe,
Oof.
which long term that kind of stuff isn't actually sustainable. And
No.
I probably, well, I don't probably I did. I burnt out or got close to burnout because I didn't take the advice I had in front of me sooner, which was you need to leverage some of this stuff out.
So that was that whilst you were with Keller Williams, or was that like
No,
okay? So that was
yeah,
early on. I
yeah,
think I think you. Yeah, I was listening to podcasts with Simon Gates actually. Tanya was. Did you listen to that one?
yeah,
Yeah, and they were talking about you on the podcast, and they said was it Ali Harper that really sort of said you got to take some time off and reassess.
yeah. A
Yeah, she
couple
had
of times that happened, really, to be honest.
yeah, no, it's I suppose you yeah, sometimes you just have to sort of take a step back and reassess what's happening and I guess go try and figure out a better strategy that works for you. Um and that seems well, I suppose since then you sort of turned a big corner, I guess. Um so let's go back to advice for new agents
Yeah.
coming into the industry. So, what's the best piece of advice you could give to someone who's just starting out as an agent, self-employed agent?
Um, well, I kind of split it in two. The first bit would be this is absolutely the best time to be doing something, absolutely, because
Okay.
we're entering into a period where everyone that has ridden on the coattails of the market
Mm,
might be in for or are in and have been already been in for a rude awakening in the sense that it's going to require something different in this next 6, 12, 18 months to be successful. And I think whilst there's lots of brilliant agents out there, I also think there's some others that aren't so brilliant and are not
mm,
equipped to deal with what comes next.
hmm
And I guess my other piece of advice as part of that would be, well, once you've decided you're going to do it, choose how you're going to find your business and just stay consistent with that. Just be
Okay.
consistent. So
So
one
with your
thing,
lead gen, with the lead gen, you mean?
yeah.
Okay.
So if
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
one thing we've done consistently every single week since we started is adding a minimum of 25 people into the database. There's not one week we've missed that.
Interesting. Interesting. So it's constantly growing then, isn't it? It's like I suppose if you're focusing on growth, you can't really go too far wrong, can you? It's the rest of it's going to sort of spring out of that really. I mean,
And
what? Yeah, go on. Sorry, mate.
well, I was going to say, I think you need to stick with things as well. You haven't
Mm,
got to still, you can't do something for a week and expect it to work. I'd say decide what your free lead gen priorities are, or your lead gen
mm,
strategy areas are, and stick with them for 3 months, and then measure and decide.
mm.
Is social working for you massively? Is I know networking, is that working massively? And all the time test and tweak to make sure that you're not just continuing to do the same drudgery day after day without actually getting anything from it.
Yeah, so you might have to pivot in certain circumstances if it's not working for you,
Yeah.
and focus on what is working. So what happens if you got to, like, say, Friday and you've only got like 10 on the database? Like, what's your call to action?
Well, it's just ingrained. It doesn't happen because it just happens on a day-to-day basis.
Okay.
Because it's been that habitual,
Yeah.
it's just like it's just like part of the routine. It just happens.
Interesting. So it's never not happened, basically.
And back in the days when perhaps it didn't happen, because that's the answer to your question, what would we do? Well, we'd go again. We'd make it happen. We'd find those people, or we'd make sure that we knew over the weekend have to do a bit extra to kind of get those numbers in, or whatever it might be. But was always to hit that metric.
Yeah, and these could be anyone, like just anyone in the area that is remotely interested in something to do with property. Could
Yeah.
be. Okay. Interesting. Um, okay. So, I mean, you mentioned you think it's a great time to become an agent right now, even though we're heading into what people are perceiving as a difficult and challenging market. So that's quite a difficult one for me to comprehend, really. So
Okay.
why do you think that? Why do you think
So
that?
so generally speaking, there's about 1 million residential transactions a year in the UK.
Yeah.
Even in the pit of despair of 0809, there were still 800,000 residential transactions in the UK. So the media would love to sell you the misery of the world's going to implode tomorrow. Will it be challenging? Will it be difficult? 100%. Is there enough listings out there for people that want to do it to have a business and grow and succeed? 100% there is. Are there other ways that we can succeed? Yeah, of course there are. We've in the last couple of weeks signed our first buyer contract, so we're now retained by a
Yeah.
buyer. We're finding a specific property for him that also has revealed other listing opportunities for us. So it's a win-win. And I would say, yeah, there's a lot of low-hanging fruit out there at the minute. A lot of overpricing is going on. A lot of reductions are going on, and what
I've
that
seen that.
tells me is there's a lot of property out there which is overpriced. Now, some of that will be pivoting because of the market. That's 100% true, but I do genuinely think as well that given people are signing people into massive long contracts again,
Yep.
where you got a combination of high price, low fee, long contract, there's three massive red flags there. So yeah, I think there's a lot of low hanging fruit. The companies that have got volume, typically, when the market changes, from a finance perspective, can they deal with all of those? Probably not. Do they start trashing their reputation? In my experience, yes. Does that mean there's more for people like us, Josh, and other sort of independent agents to pick stock up? 100% there is, yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So you think perhaps they'll go to sleep on their market share
Well,
and
put it this
they'll
way:
drop it.
I was in Manchester. I went to look at someone in Manchester. It's not our normal area, but for like quite an important client. I walked past 10 agents' offices on Deansgate.
Yeah.
Not one of those. There was probably 4 people in office. That's 40 people.
Yeah.
Not one person was on the phone.
No one was on the phone,
They were all staring out the window, looking at
looking
their
on their
mobile.
mobiles. Yeah.
I sat in an office waiting for keys for 10 minutes. No one dialed out in that 10 minutes. I
Wow.
think that tells you the story.
Says it all, really. Yeah. Yeah. Well, they might be on their mobiles, WhatsApping their clients. You never know.
You might be, but I doubt it.
I use WhatsApp quite a lot, to be fair. I find it quite useful because some people I just can't get hold of. no, and these are people that I work with, like clients that I'm very close with, and I suppose some people have different kind of communication styles, but I find WhatsApp to be quite useful as a managing my time anyway. Because if I was to ring someone like 5 times or whatever, A, that's kind of creepy, and B, I'm kind of wasting my time in a way, because I'm ringing and ringing and ringing, whereas I could just leave one message on a WhatsApp and I can see that they've read it. So, I mean, I kind of tailed off here, but
No,
do you
you're
think?
right. I mean,
Yeah.
we use WhatsApp loads as well in our business, but
Uh-huh.
just from the just from the vibe and the flatness in the office, my opinion might be
Mm.
wrong, as you pointed out. There's no proactivity going on off on
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. No, I can see. I see it myself. When I walk past a lot of offices, some of them are closed, or they look like they're closed, or they got one person in there. Just not doing much. And that it is kind of sad to see in a way, because I suppose when people think of agents, they think, proactive salespeople. They're out there, they're hustling, making things happen. And then you walk past an agent and they're just sat there like bored, and
I think you're making a really good point. And I love tech, like I love prop tech and all that stuff. But again, I'm going to sound like a dinosaur really when I say this, but that's the best bit of technology we've all got.
true. It's
And
the
that
phone.
involves WhatsApp, just touching base, keeping in communication, keeping in relationship with people. I was at a business networking thing this morning, and everybody there, although we're in different fields, everyone was commenting that the relationships they have with their clients really, really has helped their business to grow,
Mm.
because they're genuinely interested in what's happening. And it's not, again, we talk about this a lot, obviously, but it's their relationship based and not transactional.
Yeah, it's that fiduciary versus functionary agent.
Yeah,
And I suppose we're trying to be that fiduciary agent and lead with relationships rather than just, what's your fee? Oh yeah, cheapest. Like,
yeah,
okay, what's your value? Oh yeah, highest. Oh yeah, I sign there. And that can happen. That I think agencies need to get away from that in general, and look at the service levels, um, rather than just the sort of, I guess, the just the bottom line, which is fees. But I think it's a bit of it's another subject entirely, which we don't really have a lot of time for, right now. But I do believe that, yes, the best agents will always come out on top. The ones putting the hard work in, doing the right thing consistently, and just being transparent and honest about with their clients as well is super important, because there's a lot of BS out there,
yeah.
and I think it's just, I think the public are tired of it, and they just want something straightforward and easy to deal with, and they don't mind paying. Most people probably don't mind paying a bit extra for that, for that quality of service.
Yeah, agree with that.
Final question: what's next for Michael Bailey in 2023?
Um, is to grab our unfair share, um, grow, not market share because I don't like growing market share in that sense, but to transform what we're doing, um, lead the team here and help the team to perform to a higher level, and do or complete one of my aims, or at least get closer to one of my aims, which is um, to try and get towards seven figure GCI. Said it
Wow.
before. I don't think when I said it at the time previously, I was probably uh, prepared for what that meant for me, not as an agent, but as a leader.
Mm,
Um, but now I'm definitely focused on that more and more and more.
interesting. And that's
Just
purely on sales.
yeah,
Ooh, okay. Big moves then, basically doubling your income or over doubling.
yeah.
Wow.
But I think in the team that we've got the capacity to do it. I think there's no reason why um, a Keller agent can't do it, me or otherwise.
Mm,
Genuinely, I think really we're not on the high street anymore. There is no glass ceiling. I think we can all get to wherever we want to go.
mm,
Smaller goal than that, bigger goal than that, it doesn't really matter. As long as there's a goal,
mm.
you're prepared to put the graft in. Um, and perhaps my preoccupation previously has been putting the graft in as a boots on the ground kind of graft, whereas my
Mm.
graft now is probably that included, but a bit different to that in terms of leadership and mentoring and training and all that kind of stuff.
There's a lot more to it.
Yeah,
There
and that
definitely.
means similar to what happened at the beginning, just in a different way, getting out of my own comfort zone, going to places that I find difficult to go to.
Mm. Maybe
Um,
developments, bigger developments.
yeah, but I mean, even in
Yeah.
terms of the team, in terms of leadership, coaching, all the kind of things. If I look back at the teams I've had, there's only one fundamental reason generally why we've always got a team to a level and then not kind of been able to go through the gears above that.
Mm.
Now that will be about the members of the team, of course, but some of that will rest at my own door in terms of leadership,
Okay.
inspiring, bringing people with me. So yeah,
Interesting.
that's where we're trying to get to.
Interesting. So growing the team, growing the share, growing the not market share, but unfair share, and expansion. Yes, yeah, sounds all very positive. So that I think that's pretty well. That's all we've got time for, really. But do you want to let everyone know where they can find you? So people contact you if they need to.
Yeah, sure. So anyone can get me on socials, Facebook, Insta, TikTok, which I don't know if I'm any good at, but TikTok, LinkedIn, or my number 07828 or my email address is michael.bailey@kwuk.com.
Perfect. Yep. So thanks, Michael, for being a great guest and sharing that info, because that's going to be very helpful for a lot of agents out there. And I will catch you in the next one. Thanks for listening.
My
Take
pleasure.
care.
Thanks, Josh. Cheers, buddy.
Cheers. Bye.